All right, welcome to this special security briefing. We're about to deconstruct an entire criminal enterprise, really from the inside out. The goal here is to arm you with knowledge, to show you the architecture of this deception so you can spot it and, more importantly, protect yourself. Let's get into it. To really get this, you have to start right here, in the mind of the person running the whole show. This isn't just some random phishing email. No, this is a calculated, methodical, high-stakes operation. And as this quote makes chillingly clear, it's all built on pure psychological manipulation. So, here's our plan for this briefing. First, we're going to get inside the architect's head. Then we'll move through the 3 levels of the operation: the labor on the ground floor, the psychology behind the con, and the financial alchemy that makes all the money vanish. And then, at the end, we're going to expose the single biggest weakness in this entire system. Okay, let's start at the very top. The people who architect these scams actually have a name for it: Shah Zhu Pan. It translates, grimly, to pig butchering. And you have to understand, this is way more than just a scam. The source material paints a picture of industrial-scale psychological warfare, a system where the victim isn't just a mark, they're a long-term project. The metaphor is, well, it's chilling, because it's exactly how they see their victims. The pig is the target, carefully chosen. The fattening is this long game of building trust, creating a deep emotional bond. And the slaughter, that's the final, devastating act of wiping them out financially. This really reveals their mindset, right? It's a cold, calculated process. Now let's move to the first operational level. See, the architect at the top, they don't get their hands dirty with the day-to-day stuff. Instead, they run what is basically a modern digital prison, managing a workforce of laborers who, very often, are victims themselves. The conditions for the people actually doing the work are just brutal. This number, 16, that's how many hours they're forced to work. Every single day. 16 hours. It's this relentless, high-pressure machine designed to squeeze every last drop of profit from people who are literally trapped. And this just lays out the grim reality for the folks on the front lines. A lot of them are tricked by fake job ads, only to end up trapped in these compounds, sometimes with armed guards. They're forced to juggle dozens of phones at once, running the architect's scripts all day and all night. Each worker becomes a little profit center, generating thousands of dollars a week for the operation. Now we get to the real engine of this deception. Level 2, the psychological script. This is where the whole thing comes together. This isn't about hacking a bank account, it's about hacking a human heart. The source material uses this incredible metaphor, a cage of silk. Just think about that for a second. The trap doesn't feel like a trap at all. It's designed to be comfortable, desirable, to feel safe. The victim is slowly wrapped in attention, affection, and the promise of a brighter future, never even realizing the walls are closing in around them. And here's the playbook, the exact steps they use to build that cage. First, they find a pressure point. Maybe it's loneliness, financial trouble, even just ego. Then, they spend weeks, sometimes months, building trust. They'll engineer small, fake investment wins to build confidence. And this next part is absolutely crucial. They isolate you from friends or family, anyone who might be skeptical. Only then, when the victim is totally convinced it was their idea, do they make the final move. This slide just shows the profound disconnect at the very heart of the scam. On one side, you have the victim, who's experiencing what feels like a genuine human connection. They're hearing words of affirmation, of opportunity. But on the other side, the scammer is just cold, detached, and literally just executing steps in a script. It's a devastatingly effective illusion. Okay, so once the money is sent, the operation kicks into its final phase. Level 3. This is the technical part. This is where a victim's life savings are made to disappear with what the source calls technical elegance. The architect basically becomes a ghost banker. And here's how they make the money just vanish. The key thing here is the speed. The victim's wire transfer hits and it's almost instantly converted into cryptocurrency. From there, it's pushed through services called mixers, which act like a digital paper shredder, mixing the stolen funds with millions of other transactions to completely break the chain. Finally, the money is scattered into countless anonymous digital wallets. It's virtually untraceable. So after seeing all of that, the forced labor, the psychological manipulation, the technical wizardry, it's easy to feel like this is a hopeless situation. But even this meticulously designed system has a fatal flaw. Which brings us to the most important question of this entire briefing. How can an operation that seems so perfect, so airtight, actually be so incredibly vulnerable? And here's the answer. It's because no matter how complex the digital illusion is, the whole thing is still run by humans. And humans, well, they create patterns. Every system, no matter how shadowy, has to touch the real world somewhere. It always leaves a visible node. You see, while the architect is watching their victim, someone else can be watching their patterns. The shift schedules of their workers, the IP addresses they use, the timing of the money transfers. These are all data points. They're the digital footprint. And as the source points out, it often just takes one determined victim who refuses to give up to start pulling on that one loose thread that can unravel everything. And this really brings us to the core takeaway. The architect thinks they're in control, that they're the master of the system. But the truth is, they're just as trapped as their victims and their workers. Because in a system built on suffering, as the source so powerfully puts it, everyone is eventually just another data point in someone else's database. And so we end with one final critical thought for you. The same patterns that can bring down a criminal operation can also be used to target a victim. Understanding that double-edged sword is the first real step to digital security. So you have to ask yourself, in a world built on data, who is watching your patterns? And what story does your data tell? Thank you for attending.